Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Meanwhile, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo joins us now. Last time they met, he was there. Mr. Secretary, your thoughts about how little we know at this point?
Yeah, Brian, that was different for sure. Different than most of the pressers that President Trump has, where he's usually very straightforward and very forward-leaning and sharing all the things that he can. Clearly, he felt in this instance to deliver on behalf of America, the best thing to do was to be quiet. I don't think we should overread that. I would also urge everyone watching. I'm sure the Russians are already out with a series of statements. They'll come out with more. Pay little attention to what they actually say. What we ought to all focus on is what they do in the coming hours. Will there be missiles flying tonight in Ukraine? Will the Russians continue their advance? What will the Ukrainians do on the ground? I'm sure President Zelensky will get the briefing from President Trump on what actually took place. But will we see a de facto ceasefire, at least for a little while they try to, I want to make sure I get President Trump's words right, to try and iron out some of the things that still remain to be figured out. But I agree, pretty non-transparent, much that we don't know.
Right.
That does suggest there are significant roadblocks along the way that remain.
Mr. Secretary, I didn't go to KGP school. I couldn't get in. It was probably the Russian language that stopped me. But it looks as though they've been listening to the president. If in 2022 I met with President Biden, he essentially said, and I said it doesn't have to come to a war. We don't need these hostilities. But he didn't seem to care, so we had a war. So blame President Biden for that. And he also went on to say there wouldn't have been a war if President Trump had been president. That's exactly what President Trump feels. Also, they went out of their way, even before the summit, to establish in the past how America worked together in World War II, putting roses on your monument, symbolizing U.S.'s role in defeating Nazi Germany. He also went out of his way to talk about this has been the lowest point in the Cold War, but we have so much in common. Look, we're neighbors. You want to read into that a little bit?
Only this, Brian. Putin gets the joke, right? He is trying diligently to snuggle up to President Trump. He knows that President Trump holds all the cards that can bring his nation to near ruin. That, by the way, that read of World War II, I've heard from Foreign Minister Lavrov so many times it's laughable. Now we did recount the history, but they were not good actors in the aftermath of World War II, to say the least. The Soviet Union destroyed so much and did so little for its own people. He also defended the Christian church. I mean, it's really quite laughable as well. But he hit all the notes he thought would matter. And I think that is a misread in some ways. President Trump, while he said we have a great relationship, has been incredibly tough with respect to Russia, far more capable of deterring Vladimir Putin than Joe Biden or Barack Obama ever could. I don't suspect that what happened today or what Putin could say in some laudatory statement is going to change that, Brian.
Mr. Secretary, I just want to bring it to the one point. You know that you had a long 3 or 4 page speech from Vladimir Putin with the translator ready to go. The president, probably with a Sharpie, had a few comments and then said this of significance. Let's listen.
We had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there.
So, you know President Trump. You know his body language. What are your thoughts about what he means?
I think there's still significant sticking points along the way. They may have identified interests that they can work their way through, perhaps on economic matters and the like, but it sounds to me like sort of the central issue, the thing that we've all been talking about for the days leading up to this, Vladimir Putin's willingness to conduct a ceasefire with no conditions so that they can get to the table and discuss a formal resolution of the conflict. It doesn't sound like Putin showed up today ready to concede that core point.
Yeah, we didn't get there is what he said, but we had productive meetings. I'm going to call NATO. I'm going to call the EU, European leaders. I'm going to call Zelensky. So he does have something to say, right? And soon we're going to get that, what happened and what didn't happen. And then we're going to have evaluation. It's just very different not to get that from the press conference.
Yeah, in a matter of hours, we'll have figured out precisely where they are, or at least approximately where everybody landed after today's meeting. President Trump was pretty forward-leaning in terms of there being another meeting. He had said if there was no progress, he would not concede to that point. Sounds like he at least made enough progress to believe that let the teams get back together to try and suss through this. But let's watch not only what is said in the coming hours and even days, but what actions are taken. Does Vladimir Putin continue to steal Ukrainian kids and take them back to Russia? Does he continue to fight along the Donbass and Luhansk lines of contact? Does he continue to lob missiles into Kyiv? If he does that, I think President Trump will find very suspect some of the things it sounds like Vladimir Putin may well have said today.
So they both indicated there should be another meeting. I was kind of interested to get your take when President Putin recommended a venue. Watch.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you.